welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate, episode 41, or do we call it 41.5? I don't know what the fuck we should call it, or do we call it 41-3.0? No idea. But I'll tell you what, tonight, they dropped a seismic charge on all of our rules and points values, folks. So tonight, we're going to be discussing everything X-Wing, everything about the new rules and the new scenarios. And if we get time, we're going to go over some of the new points values. To preface this to begin with, we are all very deeply disturbed at what is going on in the Ukraine right now. And so I want to take a moment of silence real quick for those who are struggling over there with the bombardments. All right. And if you have not, they do have a lot of good nonprofits that have some Patreons and some GoFundMe's going to help get refugees out of the country if needed, as well as get them some well-needed equipment because, what's going on over there is just crazy right now. So anyway, without further ado, let's bring in my co-host for the night, JJ, and the dill pickle himself, Mr. Charles. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing all right. If I'm the dill pickle, does that make you like the hide tanner?
Yeah, maybe. I've shaved my beard down, so you officially have the biggest beard on the cast.
I mean, it was always the best. You just had
it was not the best. X-Wing Crisis Protocol. There you go. Maybe that's what we'll call. Maybe we'll change our name to the show. We'll get dual viewers that way. Anyway,
yep.
Thank you all for joining us. So you guys have any quick updates for the weekend? What y'all did? How y'all doing?
The only thing that I have, and I just sent this to JJ, is I happen to be on TikTok and I saw a new lightsaber hilt that is available in a numbered limited edition at the Star Wars park here. And it is a Temple Guardian lightsaber. So it's 2 single-bladed. It also comes with a connector hilt so that you can turn it into the staff like what Darth Maul wielded. And it also has a hinged piece, almost like what Dark Ray wielded in, The Last Jedi?
Yeah. I was going to say that looks exactly like the one from Star Wars Rebels when Kanan was facing off against the Inquisitor.
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet. Other than that, I had a pretty solid weekend. Went to a strawberry festival, ate way too much food. You know,
nice. Damn, I meant to go to that.
I went to the one in the villages, not the actual one in Plant City.
I was going to go to Plant. Yeah.
Tonight, not that they're sponsoring us in any way, shape, or form, but Jameson Orange is my drink of choice this evening. This is amazing. It smells phenomenal. It tastes amazing. Donate to the Patreon so Chris can go get some as well.
All right. Fair enough. So mine is my whiskey of choice tonight is Scotch from Lockmead, and when that runs out, it will be Dewar's 12 year. So.
Ooh, well done.
Anyway.
Very nice.
So now that we're done talking and reminiscing about alcohol, so there's been some changes. If you didn't know,
just a few
insane amount of changes. And it's funny because Charles called me. Did you call me on Tuesday or Wednesday? Charles called me one of the nights and we were talking about some of the rules and things like that. And Charles mentioned one of the things that was surprising, right, is they changed the points values. The points values all of a sudden drastically changed. They didn't let anybody know on anything else. So other than that, is there been any other major surprises that either of you guys wanted to mention before we get into the rules for the new rules for the game?
I believe my exact words when I spoke to you, Chris, were I felt like a bait and switch. Like they fed us a little bit of the road and a little bit of the minor changes they were going to make. And then once everybody got comfortable with that, they grabbed the rug and just yanked our feet out from under us. I felt very conflicted. And we'll talk about it more as we go. But I will say that after a couple of games last week, both on our community stream, which is on Wednesday nights, as well as a couple of friendly games with John and a couple other people. I don't mind it. It challenges my brain to play X-Wing a little bit differently rather than the whole point and shoot. You know what I mean? It gives multiple, like you've talked about multiple times from Destiny, having alternate win conditions. So I don't have to be good at outflying you. I just have to control more objectives than you and be better at sitting on those objectives or controlling them around your ships. I can still win events not having to kill anything. And I don't mind that.
Yep. And I think that we'll see some of that. So the Cherokee Open was this weekend. They only had, 35 or 36 people enter into it. But they still did a top 16 cut. We're going to review a few of those lists if we get a chance. I'm not going to promise we'll do it this week. We may wait till next week. But we're going to go through a few of those lists because some of the things that it feels like what AMG has done is not just given us a few more toys, but allowed us to run way too many ships throughout every faction. That's what it feels like. And I could tell you, I have to go out and buy another Naboo Starfighter because I only own one, and I have a list that needs 2 now. So yeah.
So wait, what you're saying is they changed the game to get you to go back and buy more product. I think that is a good thing for AMG. Just saying.
So here's the question: do they actually have the product to support all these meta lists now?
I'm gonna say no, but we'll find out, I guess.
Because I now need to buy 2 more A-wings. Damn it! So.
Oh, before you do that, let me go through my collection. I might have. Last I remember, I think I had like 8 A-wings. I just don't have dials for them, but I do have 8 A-wings. I believe
think I have dials. Yeah, I might have dials. That's fine.
All right, so yeah, hit me up after the show. I'll go through my collection this week because that's what I spent my Thursday doing, was resorting my whole collection and building lists for my league for Monday nights. So yeah, JJ, what surprised you other than the point switcheroo?
So one of the minor surprises, and you know, I'm a multi-faction player, a multi-faction lover. One of the ones that I felt unjust, that one of the changes I felt that was really unjust because I didn't think that it was really oppressive at all, was the Buzz Droid Swarm being dropped to 1 agility. Like, I don't think that in the current meta with Reign Zero and stuff like that, that they needed that debuff to drop from 3 agility down to 1 agility, because I didn't think that the Buzz Droids were that strong. But beyond that, yeah. Definitely the points was something that was really, really hard to wrap around. And then the ban list also was a little confusing, but it took me a while to actually like get through and understand like why they had like the 7B, for instance, why they decided to do that. But yeah, there's quite a few changes that it was just Tuesday when they came out. I basically stopped working for the whole day. Like I couldn't work because I was just so enthralled for like the 3 days in a row, just deep diving into this and just going into it and trying to understand as much as I can, and just to make sure that I can have a pretty well-informed opinion of the changes so far. So yeah.
So one thing that surprised me, well, 2 things that surprised me, and I'm supremely happy surprised with both of these. Boba got a crew slot. Fenn got a mod slot. Let's go for shield upgrade or hull upgrade on a Fang fighter. I am in. Let's go.
Afterburners barrel roll focused. Yeah, sure.
Now
combine that with the clan training, so I get a red focus afterwards too, or that Beskar shielding, so I can spend a charge to shake a crit or a face down damage card. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, you got Boba back, which, in fairness, when we were making predictions, that was one of the things I said is Boba was going to get his crew slot back. That almost felt guaranteed, and I think it's partially because they let that slip on that stream, right? You know, he had a crew slot on that stream, and it's like, all right, they can't be that effing dumb to give Boba a crew when he's not coming back. Like, nobody can be that bad at the game, and if you are, then that's really bad. Like, that's we should run at that point. So I had a feeling that was coming back. The mod slot with Fenn doesn't surprise me. The stealth device ban does surprise me. But I guess it makes sense with the way they did loadout points because otherwise everybody's running stealth device. Now, if you
On
watch
an
Charles,
Ada, no less.
yeah, if you watch Charles and I play the stealth devices, they haven't really come in. It haven't worked for either of us. So
that's adding a blank to a dice roll. That's what it is for me. Just drop that on there.
And they're banned.
So they got rid of them, and I guess that's fine. That was, in fairness, probably my most disappointing and surprising thing outside of the points changes that we had. So I don't know. Again, this is definitely going to take some getting used to. I did something similar to what JJ did and spent probably 2 days, 3 days doing nothing but list building and going through all of those things. I bet you I built I think I have like 13 or 14 lists I built. So
yeah, about the same for me.
But either which way. So what we're going to do is why don't we start with the changes for the rules document? And I'm not going to bring up the rules document because it's ridiculously slow and small, and I have no interest in doing that. So I have gone through and actually pulled out all of the blue colored content and organized it in this document. And I apologize if some of the fonts are off because I didn't fix everything. Because again, I do have a job too that I had to work at. So, and I guess betting's open. I don't know why betting's open, but somebody wants to trigger
never
betting.
Closed it on the
Betting who's going to tangent first. That's one.
There you go. Bet who's going to tangent first.
One
for
Chris,
me,
2 for me,
two for Tanner. It's 1 for Tanner, 2 for Tanner. There you go. Because you know what it's going to be me. All right. So the main objectives that they had, we'll start with those, is assault at the satellite ray, chance engagement, salvage mission, and scramble the transmissions. So we all know
we'll make sure to put a link to the document if you guys want it in the Discord.
Oh yeah. Yep, I could do that actually. Now give me when somebody else starts talking, I'll do that. The objectives, we're not going to so we're going to stay away from commenting on our thoughts on the objectives right now because that will probably take a half hour or so. But just to talk real quick in terms of what I did is I put the mission objective is what they said it was going to be. So take control of a satellite before an enemy ship does is the satellite array one, which
if not longer. Yep.
Yeah. Chance engagement is essentially the kill them all.
Yeah, the dogfight.
That's the original X-Wing, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're going to kind of call that.
Yeah, basically. It's they built a scenario around that. That's what they did. Salvage mission was essentially is retrieve supply caches before the enemy does and run away with them. This one we didn't play, I don't think, this week at all, but I did watch them play this on Scott's Hexile Gaming channel, and that was out of all of them, that was probably my favorite one I've seen so far.
The salvage mission?
Yeah.
I played that one against John. Not JJ, but the other John from the stream. I played a game against him. I want to say it was on Thursday night or Friday night. I played against John in the salvage mission. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that one seemed really fun. And the last one was scramble the transmissions, which you basically deny enemies from using the satellites. Well, that's a different. Same scenario. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
So we played on stream. Yeah.
All right, so rules reference, we'll start there. The rules reference, so essentially declaring an attack changed, right? So a primary weapon requires the range to be 0 to 3. A primary weapon has no cost by default. I have no idea why that's in there. I don't understand the logic in that one, but that was an added thing other than they're telling us they can now shoot at range 0.
I think it's just a future proof, I guess, for any particular abilities. Like this opens up the floor for certain pilots that can come up that require you to spend a resource now, like a focus or target lock, in order for you to perform a primary attack. A little bit like of a lockdown thing. So I think this is just opening up design space for the future for other pilots.
Yeah. So I don't know that it again. It's different. But whatever. I get it. Then they talk about the attack dice, right? While performing a primary attack at range 0, you can't mod them unless otherwise stated. Here's where they got me, though. While performing a primary attack at range 0, the attacker dice can be modified by spending a force for their default effect, right? That's new. We didn't know that, did we?
So
No.
the way that I've read this, and especially John and I kind of discussed this during our game, a range 0 shot is essentially a permanently blinded pilot for that shot. You can't spend focus, you can't add dice, you can't do anything other than spend a force for its initial effect.
Okay. I don't know. I'm a little weirded out by that, though. So Charles, doesn't that just make Jedis even more powerful now? Like in this meta, because Jedis can now shoot range 0 and modify a dice, or they can do their other thing, right? Like
I think
they can
that
do
it
anything
makes Vader more powerful. Anybody who can change a blank, I think
Yeah.
it makes them more powerful. If you can change a force or change a focus, then I mean it's no different than a calculate or something like that. But it's one of those situations where I don't think it gives them that much more power because they can get shot back at. You know what I mean? And so when you're a Jedi at range 0, you have to, I guess, choose if you're spending your force on offense or defense. And at range 0, you don't get a range bonus. So a 2 dice attack with force, not as strong as a 3 dice attack without force. I don't think, me personally, but
Cool. The other notice that they had in there was you cannot modify defense dice of your enemy while
So
at
no
range
Dooku?
0. Yep, no Dooku, nothing. So, well, Dooku changed anyway, just so you know. If you didn't know that, Dooku changed. We'll get to
I'm
that
sure
in a
we'll
little
get
bit.
there.
So, and out of everything, in my opinion, Dooku 100% should go down in price now, but it's 100% worth what it is. Like, was definitely a needed change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no juke either. That's a really good point, especially with everybody wanting to have more points and be able to take juke. Juke is a little bit more powerful now than it was, I think, before. But they added the blazer bomb. We don't need to go through that. I added it to the document because technically speaking, it was blue.
I mean, it's blue text. It's blue text, but that was just because it was added. So there's not. We went over it when we went over the Pride of Mandalore pack. So I don't think we need to dive into that a little anymore.
No, I don't think so either. So I think it's just going to be, if that's what we want to do, like later on, we could go back through that. I think the first time we use it on screen, we now have it, right? We now officially have it. I threw it in my kit. I need 2 of these damn things, and I only got 1. So I threw it in my kit. I don't want to buy another stupid Pride of Mandalore pack either, but I did throw it in my kit ahead of time, so that I had it for Monday because I built a list specifically with that on it. In case anybody from my league is watching this. Deficit. So they added the deficit scoring. Basically, if the squad points total of a player squad is less than the maximum allowed value, subtract the total from their squad to determine the deficit. So now that they switched to 20 points instead of 200, deficit scoring makes a difference. I'm actually feel very silly that they've done that. And I almost actually wish that they would errata this and get rid of it. Just personally. Like, since we've moved to nobody's going to be bidding now. And I guess maybe we should review the points structure real quick. So what they did is they moved from 200 points down to 20 points. And then they gave you what's called a loadout value for your ship. So the only points value you get is whatever your ship cost is. So for example, Vader in the X1 is worth 8 points out of 20, but then you get 22 loadout points. And the idea is to encourage you to bring a bunch of stuff on your ship, and it doesn't subtract from how you build a list, which has its pros and cons, which we can get to either now or a little bit later. There's huge pros and cons to that style and that format. But because of that, with only 20 points, you now have to, like, I had to retool one of my lists because I came up at 19 points. I had to go back and get rid of something I wanted to to put a shittier ship in that I didn't want because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that deficit scoring is definitely a lot more amplified now, more expressed here, because when you consider it in the 200 point format, if you like build to 199 to 200, 1 or 2 points, okay, fine. Sometimes some things doesn't fit on your list and you just have that 1 point. But when you start moving to the 20 point system, 1 point is the equivalent of 10 points in the 200 point format. So that is a huge deal.
Yeah. And Deslin said in the chat that loadout points should be a pool that we get to draw from versus giving the ships a mandatory set amount. And I actually kind of agree with that too, because if you see my rack list, my rack is I don't know, my rack's probably 120 points in 2.0, right? And we all know that sure as hell you don't want a 120 point rack and then a bunch of ships to go in there. Because, oh, by the way, I could fit one more tie in my rack list. Just as an FYI. Anyway. Docking. So Charles, this is newer. I'm not a docking person, but it says after a ship that can be partially executed maneuver or overlaps a friendly carrier, it may be placed in reserve. If it does, do not resolve the effects of the overlap. Is that different?
Yeah. So before, if you didn't fully execute your maneuver, you couldn't take an action. You couldn't dock your ship. So with the new rules of bumping and having the negative effect of your ship bumping one of your ships, having the ability that you don't resolve the effect of the overlap, so you don't take damage on the docked ship. So the shuttle trying to land in the Falcon, the Z-95 trying to land with the Houndstooth, the shuttle trying to land with the Ghost, whatever the case may be, you're not having to bump so that you can get to range 0, take a damage, and then try to dock. It's just stating that if you do bump, which is something that was previously required, you had to be at range 0 in order to dock with the ship. So think back to that crazy scum list we had where the shuttle went 2 forward and then barrel rolled in front of the Falcon, and then they just bumped until they chose to dock. If you did that now, every time you bumped, you had to roll for damage. Now what they're saying is that if you bump, it may be placed in reserve, right?
Okay.
So you can choose if the mothership bumps the shuttle, you have the choice. You can either dock it and take no damage, or don't dock it and then you have to roll for the damage. But it gives you at least that option to say, okay, I'd rather not dock, or I'd rather not take damage on the shuttle this turn, and I'm just going to kick it into the mothership for a round, and then I'll kick it back out next turn, because you can't dock and undock in the same round. So it just gives the people that are playing those ships, which, to be fair, if I'm not mistaken, there's only, and JJ can correct me on this because he's our encyclopedia of X-Wing knowledge, there are only 3 ships. There are the Ghost, the Scum Falcon, and the YV-666. Those are the only 3 ships as of right now that utilize the docking mechanic.
That's right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. I guess I did not know which one it was. Epic has quite a few more docking options. Fair enough. There you go.
There is one thing.
There you go.
However,
maybe we'll see Epic as a new tournament format. Oh, that'd be so much fun.
So I actually had to look at this a little bit more, right? Because one of the things that they originally had in the rules for docking is in the part 3 part where it says a ship that deploys during the system phase. Wrong one. It is during the system phase, a ship that is range 0 of the carrier can dock within and place a reserve. A ship cannot both dock and deploy during the same system phase. And a ship that docks during the system phase does not resolve its assigned dial or activate during the activation phase. So because of that wording, you can actually, you couldn't dock and undock during the system phase, but you can still undock during the system phase, perform its action. So in the case of the Scum Falcon, you can undock your escape craft, coordinate your ship, Then during the activation phase, the Falcon can bump your ship, which if you're playing Scum Han and you're trying to hide behind a rock, that is a perfect way to make sure your ship stays in place and then
Oh,
just
yeah. So
dock the
it's like a
escape pod.
built-in non-red zero stop.
Yes, exactly. Now you do end up going slightly forward, but if you place yourself in a way where you're going to have your ship, constantly go like through that behind that rock, that is a great way to kind of make sure that Scum constantly that Han constantly gets that trick shot off with his ability. So
Yep, fair enough.
All right. So the next one is game length and tracking rounds. So they went to a standard 12-round limit, which they told us they were going to do, so that's not a surprise. And
Right.
this one is probably going to be a discussion point in a second, just because of our experience from playing and then what we watched on the Dice. Is it Dads or Dyson Dials?
Dyson Dials. Yeah.
Just Dads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dads. Yeah.
Yep. Because I've watched their stream before, and anyway. So essentially what they said is at the start of the game, place 12 charge markers, flip to accurate size, then flip them over. These markers are something they're including online so you can print and play. I've already bought mine from Curl Paul Creative, so they have them already up on the site. I bought some, so I had it. If one player's ship is destroyed, the game ends at the current round. Players who wish to play longer or shorter games can agree with their opponent upon the number of rounds before setup and charge markers, right? So this right here is where we have a little bit of context missing because they did not release the tournament documents for competitive play. I have a feeling competitive play will put a time limit in there. I can't imagine that they're not going to do that. I could be wrong, though, but I'm pretty sure that in the tournament rules, there's going to be the 75-minute or less time limit. One of the two. I'm hoping for 60 minutes. That's what I'm hoping for. Give me a little bit shorter game.
I think as we play more and we start getting used to the scenarios, maybe that time limit will change just because the games that I've played have never gone to time. So maybe they start adjusting that. JJ, just to revisit something that you had said in reference to the docking. The docking rules say that after a ship that can dock partially executes a maneuver and overlaps a friendly carrier ship. So if you kick the shuttle out and then you bump Han into the shuttle, that is the carrier ship partially executing into the ship that can dock. Han would still take damage for doing, or would still have to roll for the damage. So it's not like a freedom, and then the shuttle has to sit there for a round because it can't dock until the next turn. Because you dock and undock during the system phase, if I'm understanding that correct. That was one of the big issues with the Scum Falcon, because with the shuttle having the pilot that was the drone.
Oh, you're right. Okay, yeah, you're right.
So if you choose to undock, and you can get that bump with Han, and if you roll a 0, you'll roll a blank, it's fine, but then you leave that shuttle available for someone to just, slap it as hard as possible. So yes, your kind of timeline still works, but it does carry a negative effect that Han potentially takes damage, and it leaves the shuttle sitting out in the open for someone to blow up rather than just staying docked. Yeah. So while your scenario still works, there are a few alternative options for the opposing player to keep it not being completely oppressive and unfair.
All right. So that's round counters. Game mode essentially introduced what they call the banned and restricted list. We didn't get a restricted list. I looked. It's not there. It'll be there eventually. If you listen to the Fly Better interview, they talk about that. It's not there, though. So there you go. The banned list we will get to. They changed the naming for whatever reason from hyperspace to standard and extended. Whatever. Again,
I mean, to be fair, when you really look at it from a gameplay perspective, most of the major tournaments were played in a hyperspace format anyway. So calling that the standard format just seems to make sense.
It's fine. I liked
That's fine.
Hyperspace because I thought it was
Yeah.
just personal opinion.
No, I agree. I liked it. It was more thematic.
All right. The next one that we have is mission points. Essentially, mission points are how they're scoring the games now. All games will go up to 20 points. At the start of the game, each player earns mission points equal to their opponent's deficit. So don't take less than 20 points, folks, because when you only have to score 20 points in a game, 1 point or 2 point is pretty oppressive. So
Yep.
yes. I will tell you right now, that can make or break a game. Now they say the first time a ship's health combined total of all of the upgrade cards is reduced to half or below, rounding down, the opposing player immediately earns mission points equal to half the squad value on that ship, rounding up. So I'm going to point out two things. The first thing is they say here, rounding up. The second thing they have is they say this is how mission points are scored. If you read the scenarios, each of the scenarios does not include half points except for one. That's it.
Chance to counter. Yep.
So I don't know what the point of this putting this in here is. It's weird. I guess if we're gonna do a dogfight type thing, then maybe whatever. If like we have no scenarios we did dogfighting, it's there for those of us that want to do that. I don't know. I didn't understand the logic.
While they didn't specifically mention what mode or game mode this is for, either standard or extended, I think that this actually probably applies more to extended because they make no mention of scoring points from objectives here.
Okay.
The one part that I think that was really important here is the part where it says that if a player concedes the game, that player's remaining ships are destroyed and removed from the game before calculating each player's score. That is a interesting change to specify that if your opponent concedes mid game because they got tilted on dice, they are conceding fully. Like they can't say, well, I'm just going to end the game here and you scored 166 and I only got 33. No, it's a full 200-point win.
20.
Sorry, that's what I meant. 20-point win versus whatever they scored. And that's a big thing, especially when it comes to tournaments that include like MOV. So yeah. All right.
So there's that. If a player, you already read that, during scenario play, during the scenario play, the game winner is determined based on the scenario specific win conditions. Hence, where some confusion came in because in the scenario chance encounter, it literally states half points rounded down. So we did that on stream with John and JJ on Wednesday, and John would have won probably 20 minutes faster if he had been able to round up. Like, let's be fair. Like, we rounded down, and John still destroyed JJ. Which, by the way, JJ had a swarm, and John did not, and John still won. So swarms are not going to be the only thing that wins. Just as an FYI.
I would just also like to point out on our game Thursday night where I played John. John had a swarm. I think he had 4 or 5 interceptors and Vader in the X1. And I did not. I had a 3 big base scum ship list because I wanted to try out the gauntlet. And I completely waylaid his list rather than focusing on objectives. And I did not plan defensive. I did offensive mods all day because my ships only had 1 or 2 defense die. So there was not a point. I just went to try and overpower him on damage as much as I could.
Yep. All right. Victory counters are how you track points, whatever. So now we get to obstacles. Do we need to go over the obstacles? I think we've been talking about this.
There's one in particular.
Go ahead.
So originally we were giving a set of rules for debris clouds. They did make a change here. The rules officially state for debris clouds now is that the ship is assigned 1 stress token, which you knew. Roll 1 attack die. On a hit, the ship suffers a hit. On a crit, the ship suffers 1 crit damage. That is different than what they verbally told us over the stream, where they said that on a hit or a crit, you only suffer a regular damage, not a crit result. So the debris cloud is actually more deadly than, or actually has a potential of dealing that critical damage, which is something that wasn't on before when they were describing the changes to the obstacles.
Yep.
I like that because that makes me feel better and goes back to, it brings it a little bit back to what we had originally. You know how many times I went over debris cloud and rolled a crit and took a damage. I was like, man, this is so much better. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right. The other two things were the loose cargo and the spare parts, right? Essentially, you're going to get a Stein's Strain token, and then on a hit or crit result, you're going to get a stress token for the one, actually for both of them. So those were unknown technically. They never clarified those, but those seem to be very in range. Now,
so I have a question real quick, and I want to pick your guys' brain when it comes to obstacles, because one of the things that I've always loved was that each obstacle kind of brought its own flavor, right? Because asteroids were a hit or a crit with no other result other than you lost your shot or your action. With the debris cloud, it was a crit only, but you also got a stress. So there was a dual negative there. With asteroids now being the shift suffers a damage, and then you roll for a hit or crit, do you think that there is other than not taking the initial damage from hitting it, now that you can take a hit or a crit from a cloud, do you see a reason to bring the cloud over the asteroid?
I do, actually.
If you have a tractor list, yes, absolutely.
No one's gonna play tractor. Can we just forget that can we just add that to the ban list?
No,
actually,
no.
You know what?
No,
Tractor
because
or Ion.
Damn it, you're gonna say that and then you're gonna play it. That's what's gonna happen.
Can someone just add tractors to the ban list just so we can forget they exist?
Look, even though you can't tractor ship onto an obstacle, right? You can still either force them to face the obstacle, and then now they have to either stress to rotate, which is going to limit their dial, or they're going to end up going through it and take a chance of taking an ion, and they're going to get strained, right? So that forces your opponent to make a bad decision either way, right? Because they're either going to take the stress, and especially if they haven't moved yet, that potentially takes away an action from them, and you can easily set up for a follow-up shot later on because you're going to have a better idea where they're going to go.
I think the gas clouds are actually the more powerful out of all of them, and I say that because of the fact that again, I don't care as much about the tractoring piece of it. That makes sense, right? Yeah, you tractor somebody behind it, you fuck them. I think the difference is you being and hitting that gas cloud or going over that gas cloud, right? That ion ruins your next turn. If you're you can't take objective points.
Yep.
It's only the focus. That's it.
And I will say, and I said this earlier again when I played against John, one of the things that scenario play forces you to look at is it worth taking the objective versus losing your ability to take a mod. So I see lists. I see a lot of coordinate lists and lists that allow you to take actions outside of the take action step being huge because it allows you to spend your action to capture the objective while still like at the start of engagement or something like that, being able to take your mod. Because spending your mod to not or just play 5 deltas, that works too. But spending your mod to take the objective leaves your ship open. So I see an increase in those abilities that allow us to take secondary mods.
Yeah. Can you play 5 Delta 7B Jedi? Seriously?
Hold on, I'll find out.
If there are 4 points, yes.
I'm going right now. Give me 2 seconds.
I don't. All
Delta.
Right.
So Delta 7Bs.
Yeah.
The cheapest is the cheapest unnamed is the Jedi Knight. With the Delta 7B upgrade, which gives them the extra shields. But the Delta 7 Aether Sprite, not the Delta 7B, The cheapest is Jedi Knight coming in at 4 points.
Okay.
So yes, you can fit 5 of them, and each of
But-
them have 3 points of upgrades available.
But you used to be able to fit 5 with CLT anyway, so that's not new. Like
No, I was
I
gonna say,
used to
you can
run
fit-
5 CLT Jedi all the time.
Yeah, these are 7. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry.
No, 7B doesn't fit 5, but
Yeah,
regular
no.
7s do.
Yeah, regular 7s too. Yeah.
I feel a little bit better because again, I get before I think the difference is they're now named, right? So now you can run named ones versus non-named. Yeah, there you go. Deslin just said it. It's named ones, and which is pretty cool. And I won't lie and say that I probably will test that at some point because I used to run, like I said, I used to run 7 generic CLT Jedi because it was fun.
What else did you put on a generic CLT Jedi? Anything, or could you not fit that points wise?
No, you couldn't fit almost anything. I
Yeah.
think you could fit
Well, that's so.
maybe
Here's
like a
the fun
talent
thing.
upgrade.
Looking
or-
at a 4-point Delta 7, CLT is free. Instinctive aim is 1 point, and R2 Astromech is 2 points. So you can actually fit predictive shot, instinctive aim, or compassion, and still have the R4 Astromech on there on all 5 of the Jedi.
Yeah, you could if they were naked. You ran them all with just CLT.
Yep. Nope. Now you can run them all with an R4, a 1-point force, and having CLT on it, and still come in at 20 points flat.
Well, Chris has to go back and pull 3 more Jedis out of his case because I'm sorry, I really like whether it's good or not. I don't care. I did enjoy that list though. Just as, like I really did enjoy that list. That was a very and you want to know who hated that list? Matt. Matt
Yep.
hated that list with a passion. Because my first turn, I would always take target locks and just hope you couldn't kill a Jedi. That was it. Like, bring them all in like a V formation, take target locks, and then never use the target lock. You just saved it, no matter what. And then
The Mighty Ducks taught us the value of the flying V formation.
I was
I
about
agree.
to say the Mighty Ducks.
Just saying. Yo, look, I will fly. Listen. I need someone out there in Star Wars land that can paint. And I need 5 Jedis painted with the Mighty Ducks emblem. And we can do like jerseys on the bottom where you can do 5 members of the Mighty Ducks squad. And I will fly them in a flying V formation, and they will be the Duck 7Bs, and I'll do it in a heartbeat.
all right, hey Charles,
The Duck 7,
Charles,
the Ducks
if you-
Deltas.
if you're gonna get a Worlds ticket, this year, then we will figure out how to get those commission painted.
Bro,
And
I will go to every tournament there is. Unfortunately, I can't make Adepticon. It's just too close. I looked at it the other night, and flights are just too expensive to get me there. But I will go to the other world events, and I will fly the Ducksworth Deltas.
you and JJ could drive. You guys could swap on and off. You guys could drive. You could leave
Hey,
Wednesday
JJ,
night.
do you want to be trapped in a car with me for 16 hours?
The question is, do you want to be trapped in a car with me?
Look, I'll just give you Dramamine. I'm not worried about it.
Dramamine?
I'll bring a bottle of Jameson Orange. You'll be out by Atlanta.
All right. Well, there we go. That's how we get Charles to Adepticon. Anyway, so let's keep going because we're not even scratching the surface here. So.
Sorry, I guess we lost that bet, Chris, because you
Yeah,
bet
I
that you
know.
would tangent first, and
It
it's
wasn't-
been me the entire way.
It was
Pay out the 2s. Pay out the 2s. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I am gonna try that list though. Damn it. All right. So overlap. Once the ship is no longer on top of any other ship, place it so that it is touching the last ship that backed over. Really, I don't think that's really anything new. The difference is, if it is an allied ship, right, you roll the dice to suffer the damage. If it's an enemy ship, you can either take a stress to take a focus or calculate, whatever's on your action bar, and then skip any additional actions during that activation. That is huge, right? That's huge. Because if somebody tries to coordinate you, right, they no longer can coordinate you. I guess you can't coordinate with stress anyway, but there has
So-
to be an instance where that comes into effect there.
So this also gives a little bit of clarification in the event that you try to go through multiple ships and you end up not making it, forcing you back all the way back. So like the the best instance is like, let's say you try to do a 5 straight over 2 ships that were bumped on each other, right? And they're just like just an odd angle that the end of the 5 straight doesn't clear those 2 ships, right? One of them could be friendly and the other one could be an enemy ship. So with this wording here, the effect of the what you're going to suffer for overlapping is dependent on what initially forced you to partially execute the maneuver. So if it's an enemy ship at the end that's blocking your ship there, then you would put your ship back and you would end up touching your friendly at that point, because the enemy ship was the one that stopped you from executing that maneuver. Even though you overlapping your friendly, you can still take that red focus from that overlap, even though you're touching your friendly at that point.
Yeah.
Now, it is different from the simultaneous bump, which they explain later on. So.
Yep, and the simultaneous bump is essentially they give it to the allied ship. So,
yeah.
Now, not only is this going to be a really nightmare in a tournament, I'm just gonna throw this out there. This is going to be a really nightmare to some extent. I'm excited because if I'm running a droid swarm, all I have to do is, instead of dialing into 2, I dial into 3. No, it doesn't clear, and I get my red calculate. Oh, it's a 3. Clear my stress. Oops, gonna take another calculate for stress. No big deal. Oh, got Negware calculates. Gonna share them. Just saying.
Yep.
I like so my hesitancy with the bump rules is done. It's over. Like, I no longer have any hesitancy with the bump rules at all. Because originally I was very hesitant with swarms, which is funny because what have we seen on stream and everybody's like throwing swarm lists out there, and it's like, aren't you all worried you're gonna bump? And if you watch Scott from Hexile, you wanna know how many times that dude bumped his ships? Like
I know in my game with JJ, he bumped his A-wings at least twice during that game.
Yeah, and the cocksucker took no fucking damage either.
Yeah,
he
same
rolled
thing
every time. He paid off somebody.
Same thing with Nickel City. I bumped like 3 times and I only suffered 1 damage. Yeah.
That's because you're lucky. All right. Planning phase is just road. We're gonna skip that. I don't think there's anything important in there.
Well, besides AMG mentioning us by name. I mean,
that's true.
Right? Facts.
I like that our name's right in there.
Yes.
I like
Facts.
that.
Shout out AMG.
Now maybe we could get them on the stream. I guess we got to quit swearing, and then we can have them on the stream. So, and that's my fault. I will admit openly. With the alcohol flowing, that's what happens. Then they talk about system phase for player order. Players can assign dials in any order. Players are allowed to change their selection on their dials until players have rolled to determine player order. I don't think that's really anything new that we didn't have before. They changed the range bonus for attacks range 1. Attacker rolls 1 additional die during the roll attack dice step. I don't remember that being anything different, but I guess it's a clarification.
So, prior to the range 0 attacks, if you had ships that had range 0 abilities like Reimer or anything, people used to roll 1 additional at range 0. So
gotcha. Road, we're gonna skip that. Tractor, same thing. You can't tractor somebody onto an obstacle. Unit, they this is weird. They now clarify ships and remotes as units. I have not seen that affect anything yet, but I'm sure that's gonna come into play at some point in the future. So it's weird. Now I have 8 units that I'm gonna shoot at you. My 8 units are worth 20 points. I'm sorry. That's just being pedantic now. Victory counters. Again, some scenarios require victory counters. Whatever. Winning the game. That's the different one. During the game, each player calculates and tracks mission points. The player with the most mission points at the end of the game wins. During scenario play, the game winner is determined based on the scenario-specific victory conditions. Kind of boring, blah, 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 blah. Now we're into erratas, though. Now we're into some of the... This is some big changes. Where the hell is Nabi, too? Why is Nabi not here? All right, JJ, you have
he's
a task
sleeping, man.
To get him to be on the stream. No, he's not. He's not sleeping.
He's sleeping, man.
He's always on our stream. It's because you guys criticize A-Wings too many times.
I literally made a list named A List Worthy of Nabi, and it was 7 A-Wings, and I played it on stream twice. All right. Oh, man.
All right. You want to take Arvel?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be me just talking.
So Arvel here, for his errata, it says it now reads: if you fail a boost action by overlapping another ship, you may resolve it as though you partially executed a maneuver instead. While you perform an attack at range 0, treat it as an attack at range 1. So a question for this particular ability, because I wait, even though I've been flying him for a little bit, I didn't just like click to me until like actually today when I was just rereading this ability. So if you execute it as partially executing a maneuver, does that mean that you can then, if you end up like bumping an enemy ship, can you now take a red focus after you partially execute a maneuver?
No. No, I would rule that as no, because it says if you would fail a boost action, you may resolve it as you were partially executing the maneuver instead. But they aren't saying you could
boost action. It's not counting as
Yeah.
partially executed. So you can't. It's not composure. It's not fail and get a focus. It's just they're telling you that you're treating it as like a bump, which will matter when we get the Scum N1 that has the 2 boost. That this will count.
All right. Next one is Brewer Cret. Charles, what did they change on the Nantex?
So the ship ability should read: you cannot rotate your arc to your
sides.
Your ass.
Thank you. To your side. To your sides. After you fully execute a maneuver, you may gain 1 tractor token to perform a rotate action. So they added fully. Thank God. I've only been saying this since Nantex Swarms. I love the Nantex ship as it was, but being able to intentionally bump and then still rotate to barrel roll back to take a range 1 shot with a focus action, with it was an unmodded, but still an unmodded range 1 shot where you bumped into me and didn't get anything. It was ridiculously overpowered. So adding the word fully is fantastic.
And I think it solves that bumping issue, because otherwise you're going to have the question of, well, they bump and they can still barrel roll. Is it technically a bump, right? You know, like it's a whole dilemma that they were going to get involved with. So I agree with you. I think this is a good move. Not that I ever ran Nantex to begin with.
Right. Then we have Oiken. Oiken, yeah. So should read while you perform an attack at attack range 0, treat it as an attack range 1. Basically, all this did was update the ability so that it worked with the new range 0 rules.
Yep.
Because I believe Oiken previously was just you could take a shot at range 0, but your opponents could shoot at you at range 0. This does give him a little bit of an ability bump just because at range 0, he can now treat it as range 1. So he still gets the ability to mod dice during that range 0 attack. I think this has all sorts of implications for the Decimator, and I'm really excited to see Big Betty get some more table time.
Yeah, now they can fit 3 ships.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Man, I'm sad because I never got to run my 2 Decimator list ever. Never. Rest in peace,
fun.
2 Decimators.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right.
So we'll skip over Cherokee and the rest of the Nantex because it's all the same thing. So the next one that we got here is Commandant Goran, which they actually completely reworked his ability here. So he now reads: at the start of the engagement phase, choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 3 with a lower initiative than yours. The chosen ship gains 1 evade token and removes 1 non-stress red token. Huge ability for Goran.
Absolutely.
Now, that makes him a huge support, especially if you're running him with Nash Windrider, who normally is like the primary target of the list because he keeps everybody else that extra alive, and so that way they can shoot. You fly him. He's going to be like stapled on with him. I would definitely.
I like it. I think it's good. I think that's a good rework.
I agree. Chris, you want to take the next one because it's your bread and butter anyway?
Yeah, it's sad day. DBS 404 now reads: while you perform an attack at range 1, roll 1 additional dice. After the attack hits, suffer 1 crit damage. So it's no longer range 0. It's range 1. Rest in peace, 404. You will never be played unless they lower your ship cost. I guarantee it.
Yeah, they have to. They have to lower his
Yeah.
costs, honestly.
And they didn't. So I'll tell you right
I
now,
didn't think
I
about
took
that.
him right out of my list. So
I didn't even think about that with Gorin. A non-stress red token, does that count a target lock as well, or does a target lock not count as a red token?
It does. hmm Same thing with strain or deplete or ion. Ion is
Yep.
another big one.
Absolutely.
So yeah. hmm
oh
Then
my
we
god.
skip.
That's
Yeah.
that's a good point because you can hit a gas cloud and that's really good. All right, I gotta go back and look at why I'm not running Gorin.
Then we skip the rest of the errata because they're all really just adding the word fully to all the pilots of the Nantex. Buzz droids we already kind of talked about. Their agility was reduced to 1. I kind of agree with you guys. While they were out, they were a pain, but I don't think I ever shot at them, so I didn't care whether they had 3 or they had 1. So we can skip through that and on to the
okay,
upgrade
hold on.
cards.
I'm gonna tangent for a second. I'm gonna say it's bullshit. Like hands down, it's bullshit that they did that. Especially because you can shoot at range 0 now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like I'm sorry. Like and then you're gonna tell me they're gonna be worth 4 points. Just give me cluster missiles. I have 0 reason to ever take them. And if that was your point, just put them on the banned list. Right?
Yep.
I
think the only thing that it does, because at range 0 on my ship, they're there. I think the only thing this does is it encourages the player that the ship is attached
to shoot them,
to waste a round of shots to get rid of it. So rather than just dealing with them and taking the continued damage until you can get rid of them, I can give up a shot, or I have to make that choice. Can I kill Vader, or should I take the shot at the Buzz droid and just get rid of it?
Yep. And why I don't like it is because the reason Buzz droids had life is because it made you make a decision with your other ships. So, for example, it's a fire spray. You have other ships around it. You know how many times people shoot at the Buzz droids to get it off that fire spray? Unless you're one of my opponents that just drove Django around with a Buzz droid on him. Anyway, again, like I don't know.
I mean, I get it, but in the same breath, I don't. Like, I never shot at them anyway, so it doesn't matter if you increased it to 5 versus down to 1. Like, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. So
I think he froze.
The only reason I see this being like an issue, I understand it. Dang it, you got me. Okay.
Yeah, we got
so.
You
so the reason I think why they actually ended up doing this is because you can technically just shoot a Buzz droid on top of an objective, and you're forcing your opponent to either deal with the Buzz droid or deal with you and spend actions to either try to take out that boost or barrel roll off of the thing and stuff. So I think they thought that the power level of the Buzz droid was too high with 3 agility. That's the only reasoning that I could think why they would have done that. But yeah, I don't think that it deserved to drop down to 1, honestly. So,
yeah, you know how many times, because you can't modify their dice anyway.
Yeah.
You know how many times all it does is, and if the guy's shooting at it, right? If somebody's shooting at it, you know what happens? They spend their focus or their force anyway. So it doesn't.
They can't anymore.
Well, they can't at range 0. You're right. That's true. Yeah. No, I still think it's bullshit.
You got force. I mean, you can still mod force, but to be fair, and I think this might be a nod. The only time Buzz droids have ever been used is on ships that had Jedi pilots. So being able to mod with force might just be a nod to canon, I guess, maybe.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's move on.
All right, so we got Zeb. So Zeb just reads, while you perform an attack at range 0, you may spend focus tokens for their default effect to modify results, and while defending at attack 0, you can spend focus. So Zeb was another one of those ships that had range 0 abilities in 1.0 that allowed it to do, or in 2.0 that allowed it to do things that other ships couldn't do. And this is just an ability rework to keep Zeb in the fight. Even now, everybody can shoot at range 0. Zeb still has the ability to be a powerhouse at range 0, which I am firmly in use of. I like it. So,
see, I wish they would have just banned Zeb and moved on. because okay, while this is great, right? I mean, I get it, but you still don't get the range bonus for it. Whereas you used to get a range bonus with Zeb.
I
Zeb
mean, it's
used to get that extra
situational.
die.
It's really situational with Zeb. I mean, if I'm playing a ghost like choppers, particularly that wants to bump and give out jam tokens, I'm okay with it, right? Because assuming that I get a focus or like a calculate. Actually, no, never mind. I wouldn't run this with chopper because this only gives you focus. But let's say
Chopper
callous,
can't
right?
take a focus.
Yeah, so yeah, assuming you get like somebody who can give out like something for like range 0, like bumping or whatever, this definitely helps you to like get that mod at range 0 if you have no other shots, particularly with like a lower initiative ace. It helps you at least give you a better chance of trying to push in damage at range 0 against another ship. And hopefully if you had jammed or prevented that other ship from being able to take a red focus, you're not getting anything in return like back, or you have a lower chance of taking additional damage from that focus result from the other ship. So I mean, moderately okay. So
all right, next one, C110P,
Which is Chopper, is it not?
yes. So he reads, this is the Republic chopper, Astromech. So he reads, second section ability should read, after you fully execute a maneuver, you may spend a charge to perform a red evade action, even while stressed. And then his flip side reads, after you fully execute a maneuver, you may choose a ship at range 0 to 1, and it gains a jam token. Both sides adding the portion fully execute, which is a big thing, because one of the things that was used in the Republic, particularly with like Anakin, who is initiative 6, is that you could just, once you spend those charges to get that red evade, you could just start jamming everybody every single turn, even if you bumped. So I am glad that they added that fully executed, because it felt just like that. So.
Can I ask why they left the range 0 to 1? Because you can't be at range 0 without bumping. So I don't know. It seems dumb to me.
Well, that's not necessarily true. There are situations where you can execute a maneuver and end up just flush next to a ship, where the base fully like lands there, and you're just like touching the other base, but you didn't necessarily bump because you're based in there. It's a fringe case, but it does happen. So
they didn't think of that. They just forgot to errata the range 0. Or as Deslin said, you could just jam yourself, I guess. Like what?
That's true.
I don't know what that would cause, but great. All right, Dooku, which I will tell you as a set player this I agree with. What they did is they changed the modified dice to only during an attack. So not only does it remove the during defense dice, which I'm 100% actually a fan of, but it also removes the obstacle rules. and if you think about it, it removes the objective rules, because there's an objective in one of the missions, or one of the mission, whatever the hell they call them. There's one where you basically try to take another employee's another satellite, and like they have to roll, and if they roll a blank, they don't get it. Dooku would just decimate in that environment. It would be awful, especially because you gave me HMPs that have like 20 loadout points and 14 loadout points. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna stick Dooku right there, if that was the case. So anyway, I think it's a good change. Personally, I think it's a good change. So
yeah.
Dedicated. Who wants dedicated?
I'll take dedicated.
Is that because you're dedicated to our show?
Always. So they changed the keyword restrictions to be Republic and clone. Removed non-limited restriction, and then added the clone restriction.
Yeah, so I'm confused what that does, but
I think what they're setting up here, and this is coming from a player that I've played like HeroClix, right? So in HeroClix, you have various factions that you can do things with. So you have like the Super Friends, or you have the Avengers, or these keywords that allow you to do things. And I think what they're alluding to here is having it be a non-limited restriction, meaning that only generic clone ships can use it. They might be alluding to Bad Batch expansions in the future, or anyone that is classified as a clone, the same as the Mandalorian upgrades will allow for upgrades to be used with future Mandalorian expansions, and things like that. This is what I see here, at least me personally.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
that's good. I like that. And if this is not a Bad Batch stuff, count me in.
Okay.
Count me in. Hey, is this how we get the Lambda shuttle back in 2.0 or 2.50 or whatever the hell we're going to call it?
I'm in for that.
That's my theory. So
now, out of the current like unique clone pilots, anybody stand out in particular that would benefit from using dedicated?
I don't know, because I don't run Republic.
I don't know. I feel like you're asking a very
Jedis.
Pointed question, sir. So how about you answer that for us?
I honestly couldn't think of it. Like, my first thought was oddball because I thought that it might give him a stress, but I forget it's actually a strain token. So that there's no real interaction there. I couldn't really think of any other clone trooper that would benefit from getting a strain.
I can't either.
Oh no, wait. I don't think he takes a I don't think he can take a talent slot, but I'll have to double check that later. Yeah.
All right. Then moving on to Ferocifier Paint. They added the ability for counterplay. So essentially, and okay, I don't like that they did this, because when I did my Aces High game, and I'm dead serious, in my Aces High game that I played at the Crossroads, I put this on Poe instead of anything else. Like, this was the one thing I specifically put on Poe. Every time somebody took a target lock, they got a stress. And it was like, oh man, I already have a stress from doing like a boost focus or a target lock barrel roll or whatever. It fucked everything up. Like, it was like that upgrade inside of standard play isn't really that good. But in Aces High, it was awesome. Like, it was the best upgrade I've ever had, ever. In Aces High. Like, seriously, like, you want a target lock, Poe? Here's a stress. Here's a stress. Here's a stress. Oh, I had one guy, and it was funny because Brendan in our group was running a fire spray, a generic fire spray, because you could do that in Aces High, or you could before. And he got me in bullseye because he was a medium base ship, and he's like, I don't have to take the stress. And I was like, all right, that's fair. That's fair. You don't. But essentially what it does is it now allows you to, instead of taking the stress, you can just cancel the target lock. So
it seems like a waste of an action, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I don't like it. I think this should be a punishing effect, but I understand why they changed it so that people have to remember it. Fine, whatever. Moving on. The next ones, we can pour out a little bit of scotch for these grappling struts and landing struts. Essentially, they added, you're not allowed to barrel roll while on an asteroid or debris cloud. Boo. It's not really the end of the world, but it does make my droids a little bit less amazing. Especially because, I'll be honest, like, I'm not that good of a player, but I did specifically would set ships up on the sides of asteroids and debris clouds so I could do this action just to piss people off. Like, and it would always... I did it more to tilt the people I was playing against, because if you don't know that, and then you're like, you got to be kidding me. And, oh, you don't have to move next turn? Oh, you're not going to take any damage? Oh, and people get pissed. So, like, I did it as a tilting mechanism more than a benefit for anything else, but I guess that's why they removed it. I can no longer barrel roll and stay on an asteroid.
So next, then, are we skipping through landing struts so that we don't have to add to Chris's depression?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm sad.
So, nope, you're good. So then we have Leia, which this is a change that I am firmly
same here.
Firmly in support of. The ship or the card should read that after a friendly ship reveals a non-zero stop maneuver, you may spend a charge. If you do, the chosen ship reduces the difficulty of that maneuver. So no more U-wing, zero stop, 90-degree rotation, bomb drops.
Wrong Leia. Wrong Leia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is resistance,
Resistance
Leia.
Leia.
Resistance
So
Leia. Oh, good.
this only affects really the space couches, the resistance transports. Yeah, and particularly Covenel. Covenel could reveal the zero stop maneuver, make it white, and then still roll an additional die with it every single turn. Back to back without stop. So this nerfs that particular combo in particular, even though honestly Covenel wasn't really seeing as much.
I was gonna say I don't remember
play,
seeing that
but-
combo, so it obviously wasn't meta breaking that bad.
I mean,
You
it
can't
made
do
it
it
to
every
one of the
turn.
top 16s. Yeah.
You couldn't do it every turn, dude. Leia wasn't one charge.
Yeah, sure. She's one force.
No. Was it?
Resistance Leia.
And Resistance
Oh,
Leia. Yeah,
okay,
this
yep,
is not
yep.
Rebel Leia with the 3
Yeah.
charges that you spend every 3rd turn.
Yeah.
This was old lady Leia, you know, when she was powerful enough to ignore the vacuum of space and just float through with her finger
Yeah.
out.
And just like Deslin mentioned in the chat, being able to stop on an objective is not good. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, imagine Coven now just stopping on an objective the entire game and just holding it. Like, yeah.
It would make you take Covenel off the board real quick. Just saying.
Yeah, fair.
Fair.
If I saw
so-
Covenel, I was up. there we go.
Is this
I
Luke
am like-
Gunner?
Yeah, this is Luke
Yes.
Gunner.
The one that was supposed to be banned, and it is not banned.
At the start of engagement, you may spend 1 force to gain a deplete token to rotate your arc indicator.
Yes.
And it says they just added an additional cost. So I assume that additional cost is the deplete token.
Yes.
It's still 16 points. Oh, loadout points, by the way.
Yeah, who can even run that? What, just Han?
Like,
Right.
yeah, I think Han. I think that's it. Like, that's it. Nobody else. I don't know.
Yeah, Han and Leia. Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, totally not worth it. Totally
Um,
not worth it.
I don't know.
The next ruling is the most major ruling in all of X-Wing, that players may remove the miniature from its peg until
Yes.
the conflict is resolved. I am
Uh.
so glad that they changed this. This had the entire game ruined for me, although I will say that it did create one of the best minis I've ever seen. There was a guy at LVO that had Delta 7 Obi-Wan on like 8 pegs that had been bent to create like a stair step, and then he had a Lego minifig of Obi-Wan on the peg so that Obi-Wan always had the high ground. It's fantastic.
Love it. Love it.
So at our local Corey, he run most of the time he runs resistance, but he always does that. He always has one ship at 5 or 6 bags every time, like no questions. And when he runs Kylo, same thing. Kylo sits up here. You never get higher than Kylo ever.
The huge ship ruling is not a big deal. They've not been updated in the core rules, so I guess that'll be updated later. Squad building. I mean, realistically, some ships have keywords. There's loadout values, squad points. This is the most major change. Outside of that, just a lot of blue text for the new squad building stuff that they have, but we already know about most of that.
Yep. And essentially they have links in here. So if you haven't seen the squad building points yet or the loadout values, they have specific ones in there. We will not get to building lists this week. That will be next week. There's no way I'm going to stay awake long enough. Well, I probably could because I'm pretty excited, but for the most part, there's no way. I got to get up early tomorrow, so I don't want to have a 5-hour cast tonight. So we're gonna skip through all these things, and move on. Again, upgrades are kind of the same thing. It goes into upgrades, loadout points. All of that is what we've covered. So if just as a recap, you get 20 points to build your squad with, and every ship has a unique set of loadout points and different types. Now, what I will say before we move into something else real quick is the fact that they gave ships that used to have unified types of munitions or upgrades different styles. And I'll give an example. For example, the HMPs, my Geonosian prototype, is different, right, than any of the other HMPs were normally. But the key is they have a few of them. So, for example, DBS 265 now has dual proton torpedoes instead of missiles. They switched it up. The droids, the Precision Hunter Vultures, now get cannon slots. Chris has a droid swarm with ion cannons, by the way. Just
Oh,
so
God,
y'all
that's
know.
nasty.
Like,
That's
just
nasty.
that's an
Gosh.
FYI. Like, I built it because I couldn't believe I got the ion cannons on a stupid little droid. Like who? Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I got cannons on a droid. You know, whatever. But
Can you imagine how ridiculous they look? Because the cannon's like practically 3/4 the size of the ship, and it's like welded on the top, right? Like,
oh, we didn't go through the band list. Let's go through the band list. There you go.
yeah.
Advanced sensors. No surprise. Boba Fett crew. Hey, wasn't Charles trying to show us a list where he with a gauntlet where he had Boba Fett crew? He did. That
Yeah,
little fucker.
I believe so. Yeah.
Charles.
So this was actually a surprise, right? Both this and Tobias Beckett was the other one on this list that was a surprise, because this wasn't something that they had mentioned like in their previous streams for reasons why they wanted to ban certain cards, and obviously they probably couldn't like go through an extensive list for it. But the reason why this particular crew, along with Tobias Beckett, is banned is because in standard play, when you're placing all your objectives and your asteroids, having the ability to just move around the board state to make it to an advantage to make sure that you start off being able to capture an objective early, like with Boba Fett and Salvage Run, for instance, that would be particularly strong. You just place yourself on the one that's closest to your opponent and take that away and run away. Or with Tobias Beckett, rearranging asteroids to prevent lanes for your opponents to come in and take objectives. That's particularly strong in standard. So I can see why they banned that particular upgrade.
Yeah. Then we had Cassie and Andor. I don't think that's any surprise.
Yeah.
I think we knew that was coming. Delta 7B is a surprise, but the only reason they banned it is because they essentially created a new card where you can have Delta 7 pilots and Delta 7B pilots. That's all they did. That way they could he talks about it on the Fly Better cast why they did that. And it makes total sense why they did it. It's weird, but I get it. And all I can say is if AMG was smart, they would all send us those cards for free and not make me print the damn things. But
I think honestly, with all the changes and all the errata that they have, this warrants a full card pack, honestly. Because
free.
if you're a new player, actually, you know what? They did say that they're going to reprint new core sets, right? With the updated rules, they could easily put all those cards there if they wanted to for the new players coming into the game.
Yeah.
So,
Han Solo got banned in Resistance. Sad day for him. Again.
So a side tangent on this. So I understand why they banned his ability because again, that falls along the same line as the Boba Scum crew. But they took the extra effort to reword Commander Goran, right? Because his old ability basically was range 0 bumping, right, with friendlies. And same thing with Hera and the VCX. Why wouldn't they redo their abilities to make sure that they worked well, right?
Well, he stated that. They stated they didn't have time to go through all those. They did especially because the Hera one kind of came up in that interview, and they did talk a little bit about being able to rework things later.
Okay. What would you put as Han's ability then for Resistance? Like just keeping in mind the Han of the new trilogy. Would you make him force sensitive?
Would I make Han force sensitive? No way.
Hey, he appears in episode 9 before Kylo to redeem him.
All right, that's fair. Maybe you could take some sort of token to get a force-like ability. I don't know. No,
or
I don't know.
You force Kylo Ren specifically to change Malice upgrade to Compassion.
Yeah. No. I don't know if it were me and I was putting Han in there. It would be something more along the lines of what Chewie has, right, with the ability to give health or something like that. He's able to take actions after a ship dies. I would use Han more like a Nash, where when Han gives up his life, he allows another ship to take other actions or something like that.
I don't know. I think they could do something more offensive, mainly because I want the subtitle to be, "Wow, I really like this gun." So
Yeah.
when he takes it from Chewie, the bowcaster.
There you go. That would be fun. Internal dampeners. So if they didn't ban that, we knew that would be way too powerful. So we knew that one coming into that. What's it? Oh, interloper turn. I don't understand why that got banned. I'm confused why that's.
Yeah, I wasn't sure why that was banned either. I mean, it was a card that didn't see very much. And in terms of the ships that can use it, it's only the Defender, right? Uh, and essentially what this does is that if you did a hard turn, you can take a tractor token and like you can just take that tractor token after you do the hard like one maneuver. So like yes, it essentially does give you like a rotate, basically a full stop rotate, but at the expense of a tractor token. I mean, sure, if you're trying to like take an objective and like keep it there, like in that area, sure, but you're also making your defender now an 2 agility, which is sad.
All right, no, because what it says is if you do the barrel roll, then you either gain a stress token. It's either a stress or a strain, or an ion token. It's not. There's no tractor token with it. But it's giving that extra barrel roll action. I don't know. I don't understand that one. I'll be honest. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's not it. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's ion limited maneuver.
Yeah. So the card says before you execute a speed 1 to 2 turn, meaning the hard turn, or speed 1 to 2 Kyogre turn or K turn, if you are range 0 to 1 of an asteroid, structure, or huge ship, you may gain 1 tractor token. So yeah, so you do that hard turn, then to take that tractor token, which on the Defender, the hard 2 is white, so you can do the hard 2, take the tractor to either boost yourself forward and then take a regular action, or do the tractor barrel roll and then boost like in, so you can kind of do like that hard turn that way at the cost of that tractor token. Again, it's like I really don't see why that needed to be banned. But I mean, guess in playtesting, it must have done really well.
Which card are we looking at?
Interloper turn. It's a TIE Defender only upgrade for the Empire.
Well, that's why it needed to be banned.
Okay. Intimidation, no question there. Cadel Connex. I didn't know that one. I don't know what that card does. I've never ran it. It must be a dial peak card.
I have to look it up myself because I'm not familiar with it. I'll tell you in just a moment here.
So just real quick, because I missed like the first 20 minutes of this because I had to use the restroom. Sorry. I noticed kind of a theme with a lot of the cards that ended up getting banned. And I say a lot, not all, but a lot of them, up to and including Interloper Turn, allow you to reposition or alter the maneuver that you dialed in for your ship before taking the maneuver. So like if you look at Boba Fett, you move your ship afterwards. Cassian allowed you to change your dial if you guessed right. You know what I mean? You look at Interloper Turn allows you to reposition. The Slave 1 title allows you to change your dial after it's been set or move your ship. Like there's a lot of these, especially advanced sensors and stuff like that. They all share a similar tie of being able to either move your ship or reposition your ship, or change your dial before actually taking that maneuver.
So that's what that Cadel Connex does. It allows you to. It's a Slave 1 crew. That's all it is.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And then the phallic, no big deal there. We knew that was going to be banned. Precognitive reflexes, same thing. R2A6, rest in peace. I love that droid. Again, not one that didn't get a lot of play, but there you go. Sarisu 10, right?
Sassy.
All right. That's kind of a sad band there too. That was a very rare pilot to field, but it was kind of fun to field. That's kind of sad. I don't get to field that pilot anymore. Seasoned Navigator. Is that like just that's we're gonna like that's just a middle finger to Django there. Again, probably needed, but
yeah.
middle finger to Django. Sense, we knew. Slave 1, yeah, I knew that was coming. Static discharge feint. What does that do that they had to ban that?
So
No
the
one ran
last
that.
the last errata that this had is that whenever you regain an ion or I believe it's just ion, you can take a damage and a stress to pass on that token to another ship at range 0 to 1 from that particular ship. So you can essentially go over a gas cloud, get the ion, and
So
then
it was
just
ion
drop it on
or
somebody
jam.
else. Oh, right, ion or jam. Yeah, you're right.
The only time that I ever used this successfully was in a dumb triple jump master list. And I would just use it to allow me to pass ions or jam tokens down the line until I got to a ship that was close enough to one of my enemy ships that I could pass it off.
Fair.
All right. What's the supernatural reflexes? Stealth device we ever covered. Snoke, same thing. That makes sense. Tal Merrick, pour one out for the separatist crew that never got to be
Released.
Yeah, Tobias Beckett, we know. Ved Foslo got banned. Again, I don't think that pilot was that pilot ever really played?
Yeah, I've
never seen it. Oh, don't lie.
No, it's actually on GSP streams. It's been on there a few times. Yeah, it's not extremely popular, but it does definitely have its use because one of the cheekiest ways to use it is you could dial in a hard 2 and then change it to a hard 1 on an X1, which is ridiculous. So I mean, it definitely had its uses for that. It was an Initiative 4 pilot, and could actually do pretty well. I still don't know why it would have been banned. I guess that falls under the whole changing your maneuver after you revealed your dial, but yeah.
And then the last one was V Marathi, which we knew was coming. And again, that's sad because I actually used to run V Marathi in Resistance quite a bit. So,
yeah.
Sad day. All right. So, gentlemen, where do we want to jump to?
Let's do the Cherokee Open. I want to break down those lists.
I mean, it's the first. Did they play under the new rules?
Yes.
With the scenarios and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, then yeah, I'm super interested to see how that went.
Okay. So there was something wrong with TTT. So if you look at TTT, the TO or whatever, they all right. And Charles, you shouldn't be that excited, just so you know, because Scum didn't do shit.
That's okay. I don't give a shit. I'm still excited to see what happened after the changes.
So here's the deal. So there's a couple of things. The first one is when we've been playing, we have never gone to time. All their rounds seem to go to time. And on stream, they actually asked the question of some other people that were playing. On average, how many rounds did they go? 6 to 8. And normally you could blame a Separatist player for that. But in this meta, there is not a Separatist player you can blame for this one. So
yeah, there's a lot to check. There, all the setup for objectives and everything, and it's just a lot that you have to do turn 0. And then if you're playing the rounds where you have to check to see if somebody has an objective held or anything like that, or rolling for those objectives, that's added time that's added on to each round for those particular objectives, especially if it's one where it's like a contested thing. And now you have to mark every ship to see if it's range 1 from like control. It adds time every single round to it. So you're running less turns per game, but those turns are longer now because you have to do those extra checks. So yeah.
So our finalist was Thomas Anonymous. I don't know if Thomas is his real name or not, but it's hilarious. I like that. Kudos to that dude for that. He's running a rebel list with Hera and the B-Wing. I don't know. Do we have to read all of this? With Debris Gambit, Trajectory Simulator, Jamming Beam, Ion Torpedoes, Thermals, so you can throw the thermals, Shield Upgrade, and S-Foils. Then we have Netrum Pollard, which is actually my favorite B-Wing to run, with Selfless, Trajectory Simulator, Jamming Beam, Seismics, and S-Foils. Then I've never seen this Y-Wing, and I have no idea what Evan Verlaine does. So hopefully somebody knows.
I can tell you. I know that
Okay.
because I run it. Yep.
Selfless with an ion turret, ion missiles, chopper, and proton bombs. AP5 in the Sheathipede with K2SO, great combination. R4 Astromech. Zeb in the Sheathipede with Hopeful, Sabrine Wren, and Hull Upgrade. So, what does Evan or Evan do?
So Von Verlaine allows you to spend a focused token at the start of the engagement phase and choose a friendly to have it roll one additional green die on defense.
Oh my god.
So
Oh.
now those V wings are rolling 2 dice.
Oh.
So yeah.
All right. That's cool. Oh, that's Dread Champ from Hexile. I did not know that. Okay.
Oh hey, yeah, nice.
Okay, well
So,
that makes a little bit more sense then.
A really interesting combo here for Hera in particular, Debris Gambit, because with the S foils closed, you can do the barrel roll into red evade, and now Debris Gambit makes that a white evade.
Yep.
So Hera is not stressed, and she can keep on moving and giving that token out to whoever needs it. So it's particularly really good.
Yeah, especially in half of the scenarios that is beneficial, which we didn't go over the scenarios in detail, but so he won by 2 points, I think. 1 or 2 points. That's what he won by. Just as an FYI, it was not by much.
Yeah, close game.
All right. You want to read the second place list?
Yep. Second place here is a Galactic Republic list here.
Starting with thing of beauty.
Yep. 2 Naboo Handmaiden and 1 Starfighters with R2 Astromech and ion torpedoes. Danae Elberger with Elusive and R2C4 with ion torpedoes. Click in the V-Wing with dedicated R3 and the Besh with the Blazer Bomb. And then Tarkin with Elusive Ion Missiles R3 and Besh with Seismic Charges. Contrail, who's an Initiative 5 V-Wing that only costs 2 points, by the way. An I-5, that's 2 points.
Because it's a V-Wing. Nobody runs them anyway.
Still, it's an I-5. All right. Barris with Instinctive Aim and Concussion Missiles and CLT on it here to round off the list. Now, this is actually one of the lists that I was tooling around with a while with the Galactic Republic because this is a 7-ship list, all of them named, and they all have very, very good uses, particularly the Handmaidens on having their ability to provide those extra evades to a priority ship, one of your friendly ships, to make sure that they stay alive for the majority of the round. It's a really solid control list too, because you have 3 ion torpedoes, which can really help stop your opponent from collecting those objectives or claiming the objectives, depending on the scenario. And it gives you a lot of control to also set up the Blazer Bomb and Seismic Charges on those ion ships. So it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Charles.
The best part of that whole thing, I have enough ships to run this list.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I was running this. I'm like, Charles can run this.
I have all the V-Wings.
So okay, I'm gonna stop for a second. Hey Charles.
Yo.
Isn't it awesome that we can now run V-Wings and get more loadout points, and they're the same cost as generics, but we actually get abilities with them? That's amazing. Like, I'm so excited to run Tarkin. Yeah. You have no idea.
Sadly, I only have 1 V-Wing, so
hey, I got 2 extras.
JJ,
I'll sell
if
you.
Come out. You could borrow mine, brother.
Yeah, I have. If you want to run this, I have plenty of V-Wings. I own 6 of them, and I just got rid of my 7th one because I don't think I can fit 7 in a list anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm running strictly A-Wings for Adepticon. I still have to fine tune them, but yeah.
Boo.
No, fine tuned is on a Delta. That's not on A-Wings.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. The next list is Trevor Richards, and he didn't properly put his list in TTT, so I had to go look it up. He's running Hera in the B-Wing with Trajectory Simulator, no surprise, Seismics, Proton, Torpedoes, a Shield Upgrade, and S-Foils, and nobody cares about Jamming Beam. Then he has Wedge, and this is the most scary Wedge I've ever seen, with Elusive, Proton Torpedoes, and a Shield Upgrade. I'm like, holy shit. Then Then he has AP5 with K2SO, R4, Arvel with a shield upgrade and vector cannons, and then Lieutenant Blount, which is amazing because Lieutenant Blount is 2 points and offsets you having 2 I6s at 6 points each.
Mm-hmm. Very solid list. Super defensive wedge there, man. Like that is the most defensive wedge I've ever seen. Now, I'm actually surprised that with the B-Wings in particular, with Hera, who has the ability to take a gunner with the title, that she's not running weapon system officer, because you can fire a torp, spend your lock, regain it, and now pass it off to somebody else. So that way they can get a lock and 4 rerolls on their attack. I think the efficiency there with Hera is just super high in the B-Wing, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. So next one is Kyle. Who wants Kyle's list?
It's Braylon in a B-Wing with ion cannon, auto blasters, the S-foils, afterburners, and marksmanship. The Ghost, which is great, with Saw Gerrera, which is one you don't see a whole lot, or at least you didn't until now. But Saw Gerrera, while performing, you may suffer a hit damage to change all of your focus results to crit results.
Yep.
That is great on a Ghost because the Ghost doesn't care about 1 damage. And then Leia Organa, 10 num with the S-foils, hull upgrade, FCS, elusive, and proton torpedoes. And then again, Lieutenant Blount rearing his head in that 2-point Z95 just to round out. I think we're going to see a lot of these 2 and 1 point ships.
Oh, yeah, without a
just
doubt.
because no one wants to give up those points, and it's easier to just stick a naked extra body in there than it is to do anything else.
Yeah, where's Greg? Greg was Lieutenant Blount meta before it was a meta. There you go. Hands off. Hats off to you, Greg.
Yeah. So the next list that we got here is Connor Prince, Rebel Alliance as well. Running Braylon with the foils, hull upgrade, auto blasters, jamming beam, proton bombs, and trajectory simulator. 10 num also with the foils, auto blaster, jamming beams, hull upgrade, proton, trajectory simulator, and marksmanship. Dutch Vander with concussion missiles and ion turret and hopeful. Jake with prockets, and Lieutenant Blount with the filler at 2 points there.
3 instances of top.
Can we get a like a list breakdown of how much these little 2-point named lists or these named ships will get played now that they can just fill
every
slots?
list?
I would tell you they're on every single one of my lists right now. They're in every single one.
So, hey, Greg, or somebody out there that knows how to create cards, when are we going to get a Lieutenant Blount alt art? That's all I'm saying. I want an alt art. Yeah. All right. Next one, Connor or Charles Pink Panther. We'll just call him Pink Panther. There you go.
I'll take this one again. This is of the top. This is our top 6 right now.
Top 8. Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying we've gone 6 lists.
Yep.
The last 4 of those 6 lists have all featured the most overpowered Z95 Hen Hunter in the game, Lieutenant Blount. AP5 in the Sheathopede with Jen Urso, R4, and the Phantom title. JJ, what's the Phantom title do?
Lets you dock with a Ghost.
Oh. Why run that other than just cuz?
For the lulz. That's it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay. I'm like, I didn't see the Ghost here. Then you've got Derek Clivian in the A-Wing with the vectored cannons.
Another 2-pointer, by the way.
Yep. Arvel in the A-Wing with vectored cannons and afterburners. Shara Bay in the A-Wing with marksmanship, thread tracers, and vectored cannons. Ezra Bridger in the Rebel TIE Fighter, which is fan-freaking-tastic. Brilliant Evasion, Harrison Dula, and the Precision Ion engines. And then Ibtisam with Perceptive Copilot.
All right. So right here, Ibtisam is amazing, by the way. Especially for 4 points. If you need a heavy medium base filler for 4 points, that is the ship to take. Don't take Nora. I know Nora gives you the extra evade. I'm telling you right now, Ibtisam in this meta is amazing.
Can I just say, raise your hand if you forgot that Arcs were also a rebel ship, because I will. I didn't like. I'm looking at this going. That's a Republic. Oh, that's right. Those are Rebel. I totally forgot. Totally forgot you can run an arc in Rebel.
Yeah, before
territory.
it was just too expensive to justify putting in your list, but at 4 points now, it's going to be huge archetype.
Yeah.
Oh, good pun, Chris. It's going to be an archetype.
I know.
It's going to be an archetype.
All right, next one, Sean Bowman, JJ.
So this one here's another Galactic Republic list here. We see the return of the Naboo Handmaidens, running passive sensors this time with ion torpedoes. Then we have a Delta 7 Ahsoka with chopper and CLT, Barriss with instinctive aim, concussion missiles, and CLT. Contrail, again, the filler ship for the Republic with 2 points. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Delta 7 with instinctive aim, prockets, and calibrated laser.
And you know why? Because you could take a target lock and then use your force to shoot your rockets.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. And a target lock is so much better than a focus with prockets.
Yeah, definitely. It's really strong. And on top of that, it's even though it is the weaker Delta 7 that has only just one shield, you run the Naboo Handmaidens with alongside Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's going to have every single evade that he needs to survive.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. The last one is Tommy Adams with another freaking Rebel Alliance ship or list. We have Wedge with marksmanship, proton torpedoes, R3, which is just way
The
too
double target
amazing.
lock.
Yeah. Hull upgrade and S foils. Ahsoka Tana in the A-Wing with instinctive aim, extreme maneuvers, because now you got the ability to pay for all those points. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you Predator on top of that. And you can run concussion missiles and shield upgrade. Then you have Nora Wexley, which is, I swear to God, John's favorite ship in Rebels, with extreme handling. Ursa Wren, which is a new card. Hondo, and veteran tail gunner. And then our favorite, which somebody better create an alt art card for ASAP, Lieutenant Blount.
Oh, yeah. Now,
that's only top 16, right? No, that's top 8. I didn't even go into top 16 because there wasn't that many lists. We could go farther. We could dig farther into here. I didn't really, I don't know. Because my problem is we didn't go through the scenarios in detail. I don't know how all these ships work with all the different scenarios. There's so much to it with it. I'm a little more on the side that if we spent any more time going through lists, like really it doesn't matter to some extent, right? Like really we should probably dissect scenarios and all these other play things before we get into more lists. I will say it's exciting to see it. I watched a lot of the dad's stream this weekend. Not all of it live. Some of it I had to go back and watch tonight because of my busy schedule. But it was fun to see some of these scenarios in play. They had a different experience than we had, though. And maybe that's because we're running TTS, but their experience was it ran less time. One of the neat things I will say is there was an aces list. It didn't make it out of top 16, but there was an aces list that did make it into top 16. And I will say that because everybody's probably easily familiar with Rebels, that's why they swerved to that. I don't think, and I guess I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think Rebels is going to be that much more successful than other lists. I think they have a lot more tools. But I think people are sleeping on Scum, personally.
I don't, and I'll explain why until the ruling is made. There is not another faction. There is not another faction that has this many small base ships with this amount of health. I will say this as a 1.0 player. When you remove half points from any scoring opportunity, Rebels float to the top every single time. Every time. Rebels are in top just because they have B-Wings at 10 health. They have so many ships at high health. And if you're not scoring points, for those half points, you're putting a lot of effort into murdering a small base ship for no reason. That's why rebels are so good when half points are not a thing.
Yeah, and it's not only the chassis itself, it's that, currently with the points the way that they are, where they're favoring you taking the name pilots over the generics, the small base rebel ships, those abilities are really strong. You take a look at the B wings in particular, Braylon and Ten Num, that can spend their stress or use their stress for modifications throughout either offense or defense, and you combine that with any other ability that either gives them more either more hull or more health, or even a potential like additional dice with a Von Verlaine. They're going to last a long time on the field, especially if your opponent's list is spread out, trying to take objectives and can't concentrate fire on a particular ship to try to take it out in one shot. It's far more beneficial in this particular meta when you're spreading out your objectives, or spreading out to get objectives, than concentrating on trying to take out your opponent. That being said, that doesn't mean that that particular method doesn't work, because we've seen it on, or at least myself, I've seen it on stream where swarms can be beaten by less lower count ships lists, because they're able to successfully eliminate the swarm one at a time without them being concentrated fired upon, because the swarm breaks out to try to take objectives. So it's definitely a lot better for the rebels, because they do have that that health with the abilities that make them a lot more tanky.
So one of the things I will say where I feel disappointed is a swarm was a style of list you ran that had pros and cons. If you can run 7 fucking A-wings together that are all 3 agility, you are not a swarm in the true sense, right? In that art style. Like M3As were very unique in the fact that they got their 3 agility and they made up for it with a very poor dial, period. There was a disadvantage to taking an M3A swarm, period. There was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a disadvantage to taking a droid swarm. While don't roll your eyes at me. There are 2 agility ships, and yes, they could token share, but there is a disadvantage to them. Fire sprays used to eliminate droid swarms hands down. But the problem and this is where maybe I'm getting, maybe I'm just getting my undies in a wringer a little bit more. I like that other factions can run swarms, but I don't like the fact that they didn't create a ship archetype for that. And it's to me, Charles brought this up when him and I were talking the other day, and I kind of blew him off, I think. A little bit more than I should have, because all of a sudden now I'm seeing these swarms that you're like, why would I ever take a droid swarm? Ever. Give me a good reason why I'm going to take a CIS swarm if I can run 8 fucking rebel ships together.
With shields and a better dial.
Come on. I disagree with you on the better dial, only because I think droid swarms actually, I think droids have a pretty good dial. And maybe it's because I like the hard turns more than anybody else does. I don't like soft turns, but that's because I play droids. I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm struggling with that piece of it, and I don't want to talk negative. I don't want to say I'm excited for scenarios. I really am. The points threw me through such a loop that I'm having a harder time wrapping my head around the fact that we got rid of an arc list type and just gave it to every faction, and then it feels unbalanced in some of the other factions. Again, no offense, you should not be able to run ever in your life run 7 A-wings. That should not be a thing. A-wings are better than M3As at that point cost, and M3As should not be 4 points. Why can I run 7 A-wings but not 7 M3As? Seriously. It's befuddling to me. I don't know. Any other thoughts, Charles?
I think you covered my complaint, my friend.
Yeah. That's and again, I'm sorry. I don't want to harp on this. I
No,
really
you're
don't want to be that guy, but
no
No, it's
one's
okay.
mad at you, brother. No one is mad at you. Like, this is the truth. I mean, to be fair, and to play devil's advocate here, this is the first time that we are able to see, you know what I mean, this style, because this is a brand new way of
Yep.
looking at the game. So there's going to be balancing issues. There's going to be things that need to be fixed. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. You know what I mean? Again, I look at the Green Squadron at an I3 and a Phoenix Squadron at I1, and I don't know why in God's name I would not want to take a Green Squadron over a Phoenix Squadron every single time. Every time. Why is the I1 the same as the I3, but the I3 gets one more upgrade point? What benefit are you giving me to taking an I1 pilot? Some of the points for this, I don't have the ability to make it make logical sense. And I agree. When you look at ships that should be swarmed, right? I don't think that any, and Nabi, you can come at my head. Like, I'm okay for it. When you watch this back, I'm okay for it. I don't think that a 3-ship list, or I'm sorry, a 3 agility ship should be able to be swarmed. Right? That was the one benefit that or the one chink in the armor of, say, a droid swarm, was they only had 2 agility. So if you could get in and knife fight, you could still do damage. 3 agility in a 7 to 8 ship list is just oppressive. Period and end of story.
Yeah, I agree. As a person who's been running that 7A wing list, just to see it, because one of the things I wanted to do, right, is see, as a competitive player, I wanted to try out minimum maximum lists, you know, trying to see what how far can I push a particular archetype for with the new points. And one of the first things I gravitated to was the A-wing list. And as a person who has run that list a few times now across all different scenarios, it is very, very hard to find any other list um, that can offer the flexibility across all 4 of the scenarios currently for standard, that can react to a very big portion of the other lists that can be generated with these current points. Um, that it's not to say that they're indestructible, but no, by not any means. You know, you still have to be able to pilot them and still get them into positions to take objectives, but it is extremely difficult to counter that 3 agility consistently, because you can and I've had games where people they put in a lot of fire to try to take down a single A-wing, and if I just roll really good dice, even if I have no mods, you're wasting 2-3 shots on a single A-wing and only getting maybe 3 points in return, while I have maybe killed off one of your ships, which costs higher because it's taking multiple shots from the rest of my fleet, and I'm also getting objective points from whatever objective we're playing on top of that. So it is a bit different. And I think that we'll have to save this conversation for next week as well, when we go over like the list building aspects and like our reactions to like all these changes, because we don't have time today just to go through our reactions to like their announcements and how they went through everything. But there is a lot there that I kind of want to call this arcade wing, because it feels a lot more arcadey. Just throwing out like these overpowered lists out into the fields. I mean, if you take a look at the Cherokee Open, you would have never seen this many upgrades on all these ships. There's just no way. And now that you have the ability to like overload all these ships to go out into the field to like kill each other, it feels a lot more like arcade wing to me, like an arcade style instead of a strategy type. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Now, last resort, to answer your question, there was a TIE Swarm in top 16 with Howl Runner in it, just as an FYI. It was there. And you want to know what beats a droid swarm? A TIE Swarm. Hands down, every day of the week. Even with Discords. Well, now Discords don't matter, so I don't know. You know.
I will just say this, and I mentioned this when we kind of talked about this on Wednesday, that I was looking at this and I told you guys that I thought that based on my understanding of the scenarios and scenario play and how it works, that we would not see a shift to lower ship lists, that we would instead see a shift the other way. And when you look at this, there is not a list on here with less than 4 ships.
Yep.
There's not a list on here with there was one list with 4 ships. Everything else was more than 4 ships.
They had
And
3
when
ships in one.
Where? Which list on here had 3 ships?
Not in top 8, but in top 16.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So when we look at what rose to the top, what eventually made it, right? The lowest list on this was 4 ships. And that was Tommy Adams with the 4-ship list that he had, right? With Wedge, Ahsoka, Nora, and Blount. And Blount was just a filler ship. Otherwise, that's a 3-ship list. And then we had Braylon, Callus, 10, and Blount. And again, Blount is a filler. So it's a 3-ship list with a 2-point filler. But when you look at every other list, it's 5 or more ships. And when you have you have 50% chance of drawing a area control or an objective control list, more bodies on the field is always going to succeed. And when you look at Scum, making the M3A, which by and large, and again, anybody is welcome to talk to me about this. This is just my opinion. But when you look at Scum and the only real ship that Scum had that was spammable to get into a 6 to 7, ship list was the M3A. And with most M3As being 3 points or higher, you remove that capability, right? You remove that capability because the most you're going to get is 6. And that is 6. Like the big ships, the ones that you want, are 4 points. So Scum does not have the capability, with the exception of maybe the Mining Guild tie, to get in on this kind of meta, right? We have to rely on the tools. We have to rely on the toys. We have to rely on the abilities. And again, I'm not saying one way or the other because this is one tournament, right? This was one tournament that was a week after the big change was made. So there were a lot of last-minute adjustments to people's lists, a lot of last-minute understanding shifts on how to play this game. So am I saying that this is a permanent thing? No, not at all. But I'm just saying that I did say that based on my understanding of Legion, more bodies on the field equals more successful lists. And based on the limited availability of the empirical evidence that I have, when you look at what won at LVO and what won at, the major GSP tournaments that we had before this, we did not have this many 5 and 6 ship lists sitting in the top. That was a varied field. You'd have dual fire sprays. You'd have ace lists with 3 ships in it. You'd have a lot of stuff. You don't see that here. No one's running a 2-ship list with filler. Everybody's running a 3-ship list with filler or more. And I don't mind it. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing all the name pilots. I am maybe the odd man out. I love seeing all of these upgrades. I freaking love it. I love the ability to use upgrades. I love that if I want to run Boba, I can put whatever I want to on him to fit my playstyle, and JJ can run a Boba that is completely different to fit his playstyle, and we both have the same amount of points to play with. We both have the same stuff. It's not about trying to hamstring other ships to make Boba powerful. Boba can just do what he wants, right?
Can you imagine if Boba was 10 points and M3As were all 3 points? Oh man, that'd be some fun. That brings back some like separatist, like Django and Trade Federation drone, lists. I love it.
Yeah, I know, Twitchy. I know 2-ship lists aren't allowed. I was just making the point that there's not a list in the top 16 of the Cherokee Open that does not have at least 4 ships. I know that dual fire sprays are not a thing anymore. I mean, you can run dual fire sprays and then throw in a Z95 for effect. And yes, last resort, I will say after playtesting it, I think Rook is a better pilot in the gauntlet than Maul. I think Rook with was it overtuned modulators is just plain awesome. And I don't mean that in a good way. It is amazing and I loved it, and it is broken and it is overpowered, and I'm going to run it as often as I can in Scum once that ship drops.
I know. Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about selling off some of my factions and just running a couple of factions. And Scum would probably be one of them, sadly enough.
Yes, Twitchy, you're right. That Republic list that came in second is 307 points by old point value.
Yeah. So next week, what we're going to do is we have a breakdown of ship points versus what they get. They call them, I don't know, they had some MCP terminology with them. But essentially, we will look at, so that's what we'll open with next week, is we're going to go through, you know, some of the ships that got buffed per se, right? And see what ones have made out versus the other ones. And then we're going to do some list building. So, we're going to try to not do only swarm list building. JJ and Charles. Well, Charles, I don't have to worry about because they don't have swarms in Scum. Yeah, Scum has no swarms ever. It doesn't exist in Scum anymore.
I've actually been, so because the points have been simplified here, and I don't want to like extend this out too long. It's been, in terms of list building, it's been much easier for me to build according to the number of ships, because the math equals out a lot easier here than in the previous way that the points used to be for like making lists. So it's very easy to make a 7-ship list or 6 or 5, because it's easy to just math out and just adjust wherever you need to make sure you have that many ships, and then just adjust the math. So
yep.
Yeah,
I will say one of the things that has a disadvantage right now, right, especially with that Republic list, is you're getting mixed initiatives quite a bit in swarms. And
Yep.
in swarms, you don't like that. That's not a thing. So I will tell you, like, at least on a positive side, the majority of the swarm lists we're seeing come out are going to have issues with the majority of the people that run them. Unless you're really good, you're going to have an initiative problem. I'm not saying I'm great, because I'm not that good, obviously, but I didn't win anything. But I'm a swarm player at heart. Like, that's what I play. And I build lists specifically to endear, you know, like initiative style play and how you build it. And I will tell you, like with your A-Wing swarm, that is probably the closest thing out of all these other swarms that come that are 7-8 ship count lists, outside of ties. And ties are meant to be a swarm too. So, you know, like that's a thing. Though nobody wants to hear that.
Just looking at it really quick for Scum, you can run 7 mining guild ties, with one of them being Ahab, but getting 0 upgrades on it. And you can run 7 Z95s, with one being Indru Shalek, I believe is how that's pronounced. And you get 2 points for upgrades on each one of them. But that is it for 7-point list. Every other Scum ship is 4 points or more.
All right, so if we're gonna end this, let's end this. So last resort, you asked what are our favorite and least favorite overall changes so far. My least favorite change is that every fucking faction can fucking run a 7-ship list now, and that's bullshit, because they're all better than droids for the most part. You want to talk about token sharing? Give me 3 agility and then let me token share, and then we'll talk about who's good and not. My favorite part is that I can actually run named pilots now, and I'm choosing named pilots over non-named pilots, period. And I'll say this, in Republic, I didn't think I would I actually was thinking about selling my whole Republic collection, period. I just was going to get rid of it, be done with it. That was one of the factions I was going to get rid of out of my life, along with FO. Sadly enough, those are kind of the 2 factions I was looking at dumping. But with the ability to run named V-Wings, then I'm kind of back in on that, because I really like the V wings, and I was running a 7V wing swarm for a while, so I'm kind of back in on the V wings. And guess what? Warthog's at least 6 points. Hawk is 5.
Yep.
Guess who's got a Hawk list?
Yep. Exactly.
Me, baby.
For me, and I put it in the chat a little while ago, but I love the fact that every pilot has asymmetric builds now. Each pilot that has different slots now, different points that can go associated with that particular pilot, really makes every single pilot unique when you're building out those when you're building out your list, because they have uses now in your list when your builds. Really fun to see like what you can do with each pilot, right? The only thing I don't like right now, that's my least favorite, is that the factions feel very unbalanced. Between as I was saying before, when I was going through like all the different like list building, like for like different amounts of ships, I found that certain factions, particularly rebels in this case, felt a lot more stronger because they do have a lot more points available to them to add on to their ships. And a lot of them were already really like well off, even without all the extra upgrades, the B-Wings in particular. You can basically run them by themselves with no upgrades, and they're fine.
You can now run 4 named B-Wings kitted out
with torpedoes and bombs and a double tap.
Like, oh my god. Whereas before you couldn't do that. Before it was the Blue Squadron. Remember when John took Blue Squadron to top 16 in GSP? Now you can run 4 named B-Wings. Fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry.
And Blount.
For me, my favorite, Boba and Fenn. I'm in love. I'm fine. I'll throw Blount in there and make a 2-ship list into a 3-ship list, and I'm okay.
Escapecraft, sir.
Yep, Escapecraft. I think my least favorite change is the further nerfing of the M3A.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we throw droids in there too? They nerf droids. M3As and
yeah,
droids
I agree too.
I don't give a crap about them nerfing droids.
Oh.
I mean, that's my opinion. You're welcome to make it one of the things that you hated. I don't care. There's no scum droids other than IG-88, and those haven't been a thing in forever.
So
although I think I'm going to delve into that real quick with the new points and see just how much fun I can have with those.
You're going to only really run 2 that are good, and then you don't have enough points for like a third. So yeah. No.
Oh, have you already delved into that?
Yeah, that was one of the first things I did. So Chris, I do agree with you. I think that and that's part of the thing that I was talking about, how I feel like the factions are unbalanced, because I feel that the faction identity, or at least the most iconic ship for the Separatists, is the Vulture droids. And the fact that you're simply outclassed by far now, with like the A-Wings, the 7 A-Wing list versus like a droid swarm. I feel like the A-Wings are going to come up on top because they have the maneuverability to get around the lower initiative droids. And I mean, sure, they can hang on to rocks, which is great, especially when it comes to controlling objectives. But if you can't get shots off on me and I can shoot you in return and start taking out your droids one at a time, you ain't going to be holding those objectives for very long. So,
nope.
So yeah. I just would like to point out, JJ, not that I'm going to try and run this, although I might, just saying, you can fit 2 aggressors with a 16-point loadout and run Lando in the Falcon, or L3 in the Falcon with dual crew slots for the 20 points. And throw IGD on the L3? Falcon. Yep, on the Falcon, and give it the double tap attack if one misses, and having, if you want to run A or C to get the free boost, or to get the boost, and then you can perform an evade action, because that gives the Falcon an evade action.
And if you could fit Lando Crew on it to help you spend that evade for rerolls, that's even sicker.
Lando Crew is. Hold on. Let me get to it. Where is it? How many points is it? Lando is 6 points. You can fit Lando and still have 6 points for other upgrades. And the title is free. So throw the title on there too. Why not?
Trick shot.
Trick shot. How many points is trick shot?
4.
No, L7 doesn't get the title. Or doesn't get that. But you can put Greedo Gunner on that bad boy.
Sounds good. All right. So anyway, we're running well out of time. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yep. So we're gonna end here. Next week we will cover. We're gonna go through the scenarios first. Then we're gonna talk about some of the changes in list building, and then we're gonna go into actual list building, especially for looking at Adepticon. It's gonna give us a little bit more. I will admit, I kind of was a little lax in playing this week. Some of because nobody invited me and I didn't sign up for streams. And then some of it was because Elden Ring came out this weekend, and I won't lie and say, Greg, you should give it another chance. And I've probably put a good 10 to 15 hours into that when I should have been playing X-Wing. But
how many times did you die?
You don't want to know. It is not bad. No, I disagree. If you learn how to cheat the mechanics, it's not as bad as it seems. But if you've never, like, I played Demon Soul or Demon Seed or whatever the last one was, and I hated it because it brought you back to the beginning, for the majority of the game. I hated that. This one at least does not do that. I will tell you, it's definitely not like when they say this is an RPG. It's not. This is not an RPG in the traditional sense at all.
But it is online co-op, right?
It is.
Yes.
But I think I don't think it's cross-platform though. So unless you have I have a PlayStation, so if you don't have a PlayStation, we can't play. I think if you get it, Charles, or Bob gets it, we can all play. But
wait, is it PS4, PS5 crossplay?
I think you can, yes. I haven't tested it.
Are we going to have a planning phase syndicate? Is it 2-player co-op or multiplayer co-op?
I don't know yet. I haven't tested it. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, Greg.
I won't be buying it for a while. I just got Forbidden West,
Horizon,
and I'm going to be spending a considerable amount of time.
Yep, and I did not get that game, but that's on my list to get.
It's so good.
I have to wait. I'm waiting. Actually, what I need to do is my taxes so that I have a bunch of money.
Oh, damn, I got to do that.
Because if I get my taxes back and I get money, then I can buy Forbidden West. The problem I have is how much time do you spend playing video games versus playing X-Wing, and Adepticon is coming up, so it's really hard for me.
I don't have a reason to worry about Adepticon, so you have fun with that, sir.
Well, maybe you should become part of our testing pool, fucker. And then
hey, guess what? Facebook Messenger works just as good, sir.
Just saying. I will say Elden Ring, Greg, I disagree. I agree with you in the aspect that it's really hard. I disagree that it's not fun. I do think it's a different style of challenge. Think of it as X-Wing 2.5 rolls.
Look, you're asked to obfuscate a advantageous situation in Elden Ring that you couldn't see with fresh eyes. Okay.
Yeah, like the time I randomly warped and walked into this door, and there was this fire dragon that shoots lava out of its asshole and then burns fire at you, and like I died instantaneously with 4,000 runes. Like, and it's like my son's like, well, you could go back in there, but you can't get out unless you kill that dragon. After like 17 times, I was like, fuck, they can have my 4,000 runes. I'm done. I can't kill that dragon. That was a mistake. Huge mistake. Huge. Yeah. But yes, if they offer multi co-player, we could do a planning phase syndicate. I bet you Bob would be in on that too. Bob will get that game.
The only reason that Bob has not bought it yet is because Bob also just bought Forbidden West. So,
is that multiplayer?
No,
okay. Sadly, that would be awesome though.
Because I say if that's multiplayer, I would invest in that now.
No, it is single player only, at least thus far. So,
my God, this is a sick list.
Yeah, right. That's a lot of butt.
Jeez.
IGA, IGB, and Lando in the Falcon. I'm in.
That's good.
Because Lando
All right,
gets all
we're gonna
of the
end this
idea ability.
before
Yeah,
we
buddy.
keep going. Before we spend way too much more time.
Yeah.
We're next week list building scenarios. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more time playing some of the scenarios under our belt, so everything won't be effing swarmed. Somebody post a list in Discord for last resort. I'm gonna Charles post a list.
Got
Do
it.
it.
Awesome. All right, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back on Wednesday with some community streaming. If you want, I will be playing on Nickel City on Tuesday. Whenever Greg gives me a time slot, so I will be on Nickel City on Tuesday. So if you want to come see me lose or play either non-separate, you'll see me play non-separatist list. How about that? There you go.
I think you should play Greg, and if you win, Greg has to play Elden Ring with you on stream.
That means he'd have to rebuy
No, he
it
already
again.
got his money back. He got his money back.
He'd have to buy it
bro.
again. Greg, you'd have... Man, Charles really setting your ass up. He'd probably be like, I'd rather just donate to your stream than play that game again.
Fair. All right, guys.
Anyway, thank you all. Have a good night. We'll be back Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and whatever the hell that is, UTC. Have a good